Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise and welcome back to From the Depths. More specifically, From the Depths, Let's Build. So as a number of you are probably aware, I've been having trouble making From the Depths content recently because I'm just a little bit burnt out on the game. But good news is that I had a sudden spike of inspiration recently. I felt like doing, I guess you could call it a fan build or aesthetic build. It is the Command & Conquer 3 stealth tank. So, if anyone who, I think it's very unlikely that anyone watching this wouldn't know, Command & Conquer, old, venerable RTS series, and of course EA has not done anything interesting with it for a long time now. But Command & Conquer 3, I guess it wasn't my favorite game ever, but it was good, and in particular I love the design of the Nod stealth tank in that game. It's much better, in my opinion, than the older versions of the stealth tank, because it just looks cool. It looks... I remember reading design notes on that, and how it's supposed to look like a crouching panther, and it really does. It does look very sleek, and also quite exotic and futuristic, and it's very nice. And so yeah, we're just gonna make something that at the very least looks like that, and at least is functional. So this is not a meta build. This thing doesn't even really end up with any form of countermeasures or anything like that. It's just, it's a tank that trundles along. It has missiles like the stealth tank, and it's got the right color scheme. It doesn't have a Brotherhood of Nod decals or anything like that. And yeah, there's still work that could be done on it. But I'm happy with it. It actually turned out, really well, because it's just wow, I wasn't sure if I could make this anywhere close to what the thing actually looks like, but nah, it looks great. So, only 12 missiles, and I went with medium missiles, because 12 small missiles is well, firstly, it wouldn't look right, and also that's I want this to have some firepower at least. And the missiles, you probably managed to spot in the split second it was on screen. It's very simple. It's just pure explosive, because that's, in the game, that's what it is. It's an explosive missile. So yeah, it's just trundling along, and this build order, I guess you could say, is one I don't actually use very often, because, I don't know, in the kind of just random... for fun, canoe shapes I tend to do whenever I'm, bored and I can't think of anything else to do in From the Depths. I usually start with the whole hull first, and all building methods are valid, by the way, so long as they get you the results you're looking for. So, inside out, starting with the AI compartment and then building out from that, I don't usually do that. But in this case, it works just fine, and also because, I wanted to keep this thing small, so I didn't particularly mind if it went over, say, the Ashes volume limit, because as much as, the Ashes of the Empire volume limit is something I want to not care about it at all, but just the fact that, at least in theory, that campaign is designed for the player to use such small designs like that. I keep, thinking about it and unconsciously trying to build to that limit, which is frustrating, because that limit is rubbish. It's it's a really unfair thing, because, I'd say most, okay, not most, but a lot of, faction vehicles in Ashes of the Empire don't care one bit about the volume limit, so why should we? But anyway, it's, yeah, so stealth tank. So shaping this was a little bit interesting. I was actually... I think there's plenty of moments in this recording where you can kind of see I'm looking at reference, good old artistic reference, because you can't not. And by the way, this thing is this armor scheme is noticeable for the fact it's basically non-existent. I didn't do anything particularly clever with spaced armor or beam subs or anything like that, which weirdly enough it kind of fits the idea behind this vehicle in the lore it is, because it's the stealth tank. The whole idea is that it's a hit-and-run thing, and if you're getting them shot at, then you are using them wrong. So, very nice indeed. And also, one of the things, and I'm going to shout out this, I probably should have done that, the video I'm about to talk about first, but oh well. Along with the roguelike commentary series that I'm doing, I want to do RTS commentary as well, because, like, RTS holds a kind of special place in my heart. It's literally the first genre of game I ever played. First video game I ever played was Age of Empires, because my dad was a fan of it. He still is. He's still playing Age of Empires Rise of Rome, like the expansion to the very first one. And it's very good. He has such fun with it. Yep, looking at reference quickly, or not so quickly. Even at times 2 speed, you can really see that I'm really staring at this thinking like, how does this work? Looking at a 3D model would probably be really good. Or, you know what would have been a really smart idea is taking my own screenshots. And damn it, I can't believe that only occurred to me now. Dang it. Also, I keep forgetting that the new 2 and 3 meter beam slopes exist. There we go, there's reference again. And so yeah, RTS. I'm definitely going to reinstall Command & Conquer 3. More specifically, I'm going to install a specific mod for Command & Conquer 3 called the Talon Mod. So sound off in the comments if you've ever heard of that mod, because it's very, very good. I think it's quite underrated, actually. Because it's like, it's almost like a weird case of like alternate history in game design, because one of the reasons why I don't really touch RTS much today is, well, the short version is that the most RTS titles that have come out in recent years, I didn't enjoy them. So things like Company of Heroes, StarCraft 2, although that's not recent, that's like some time ago now. I guess the expansions are more recent, but yeah, so RTS as a genre kind of went in a direction I didn't really like that much, because one of the things I loved about older RTS titles, you know, so things like Age of Empires and like Empire Earth and Command & Conquer. Okay, less Command & Conquer, we'll get to that in a second, but is that, like, you know, they could be slow-paced as well as fast-paced. So you could have, like, epic games that last for hours at a time against an AI opponent and stuff like that. But the marketing for RTS is, like, and this is where, you know, focus groups and kind of stuff like that can sometimes ruin a thing. That is opinion, by the way. That's not stated fact. Feel free to disagree. And that basically they thought, okay, so multiplayer is where it's at, and short games are what people want. So basically the RTS formula, I guess maybe not simplified per se, because Company of Heroes back in the day was, in fact, Company of Heroes is arguably real-time tactics rather than real-time strategy. So there's a blurred line there. So, oh yeah, gotta make a new folder for C&C stuff. But yeah, so the emphasis became on, like, you know, fast-paced gameplay and, like, games that are, like, over and, like, about, like, half an hour or less, so to speak. And what part of the reason for that is that, like, a defensive gameplay was, like, de-emphasized entirely. So you couldn't be turtley, you couldn't be tanky, because I guess the marketeers and the game designers kind of reasoned, well, that's boring, that takes too long. But sometimes you do want to, you know, spend some time in a game. I think also, like, random note, the habit I have in role-playing games of getting bored once I'm a lot of the way through the game and then restart and then re-rolling my character comes from RTS, because that's the kind of the idea. Is like you start a game, you're at the bottom of the tech tree, and then you work your way back up, and like each game has progression, but it's like kind of short progression, if that makes sense. And it's probably also why I'm so fond of roguelikes these days. Again, roguelike commentary, go check that out. It's a lot like this, actually, and in fact, Let's Builds are what gave me the idea for that. Just nice post-commentary over gameplay. But getting back to the Talon Mod, which is where this point started, don't worry, I didn't forget. The Talon Mod is basically a precious glimpse, and this was years ago, by the way. I actually want to Google quickly, like, when exactly Command & Conquer 3 was released, because it was ages ago. Like, I have to remind myself that it was quite a long time ago. Command & Conquer 3... Tiberian Wars... 2007. This is a history video, and I didn't even fully appreciate that. So So basically the Talon Mod for Command & Conquer 3 is a glimpse into a future that could have been, with people getting, you know, basically putting more strategy back into real-time strategy, like having a variety of strategies be viable. Like, in the words of the mod creators, like, it's not just tank rush anymore, you have to kind of think about what you're doing. And so yeah, the like defensive play is options, like, so defensive structures and tactics are far more viable. There's actual hard rock, paper, scissors, so things like basically, what is it? So it's a rough thing of like, tanks beat artillery, artillery beats defensive structures, and defensive structures beat tanks. That's a kind of real oversimplification for that. But yeah, so it's like, it's very much thinking more closely about, like, okay, how do you make this dynamic? How do you make it so there's more than one possible strategy? And also, they modded the 3 factions of the game, which for anyone's who's not clear is GDI, Global Defense Initiative, the Brotherhood of Nod, and the Alien Skrin, which is always my least favorite faction because, well, they somehow manage to be less interesting than the human ones. But anyway, so in the original Command & Conquer 3, those factions all play pretty much the same. You just, you know, you expand, you rush, you tank rush, you hog the Tiberium fields and stuff like that. But the Talon Mod, oh yeah, I decided not to do an ASI track on the back here because it didn't seem to be the case on the stealth tank itself. I really should have checked that actually, because I do remember that the stealth tank does kind of have, you can see the tracks turning as it steers, and it looks really cool. But anyway, they play very differently in the modded version. The Talon Mod like makes the factions feel much more distinct, and it kind of emphasizes their differences, their strengths and weaknesses. So GDI is much slower, much tankier, very much defensive, a juggernaut kind of thing. Basically, the whole idea is like they take a while to get moving, but my goodness, once they are moving, there's no stopping them. And Nod is all about, you know, being tricksy, basically. So stealth is immensely buffed in the modded version, so they're all about, like, you know, just being sneaky and using, like, high technology and using, you know, expensive but risky toys. Yeah, so it's, like, very tricksy and, like, very nice. And interesting. And the Skrin are all about speed, like, you know, glass cannons, and, you know, doing interesting things with, like, Tiberium and stuff like that. Man, Command & Conquer's old, man. I'm wrapped in nostalgia now, and I never even played the very first Command & Conquer. It was, I think, maybe a little bit before my time. In fact, let's look up now. When did Command & Conquer 1? Command & Conquer. Command & Conquer first developed 1995. Yep, 1995. Which was, I was 4 years old, so yeah, so definitely that's a little bit before my time, at least for the release date. Like 1995. I was 4 years old, so I wasn't up to really playing any games. Oh yeah, so getting back to what's actually happening on screen here, so I'm putting the little cameras on it, just, you know, just for fun mostly. And I did originally intend for this thing to have a retroreflection sensor and a passive radar on it, because I am making some token attempt to make this thing somewhat stealthy, which means not giving wireless snoopers anything to play with. So yeah, like, and that does work. Like, in the combat test you'll see later, things do tend to have kind of trouble hitting this thing, at least a little bit. Of course, if they do hit it, it like gets crippled pretty quickly. But anyway, so there's an interesting and slightly wacky thing I do in the back of this, well, where the pilot sits, and that is that the it's facing the, like, you're facing the wrong way, you're facing backwards, because that's where I could put the video screen, so not perhaps my best design decision, but it's weird, and it kind of matches, I have no idea how the C&C3 stealth tank, how the interior is meant to lay out. I'm pretty sure, I'm fairly certain that, damn it, I actually could have done it that way. Crap. I just realized I could have done it forwards the whole time, given what I end up going with. Oh well. Oh well. So, yeah. So anyway, like, it kind of fits, like, the idea of this being a weird, exotic, high-tech vehicle where the driver actually faces the other way. Which I don't think is a smart idea, actually, because, like, if you're going at speed and, you know, have a sudden stop, like, oh, I don't know, like, is that better or worse? I honestly do not know. Honestly don't know. I'm regretting some of my decisions. Let me know in the comments if you think it's funny that, like, you know, the cockpit is backwards in this. And whether we should keep it like that, or not. It goes zoom, 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 and I forgot that I had locked the friggin' inputs, because that's silly. Yeah, you only lock the inputs on spin blocks when you kind of want to, whatchamacallit? You only lock them when you don't want them to move at all. If you still want to use them for steering, you gotta keep them unlocked. Durr. So now this is me in here, and because this is like flipped upside down, this is actually not doing like what I wanted to do, because it's like, yeah, it's not correct, shall we say. And which means we have to flip that back upside down, and yes, there we go. There we got something that looks better and correct. So yeah, I'm a fan of video screens now. So this is what I want to kind of focus on, at least for a little while, when it comes to From the Depths, because I've been trying to play the game well, at the very least get the basics down, for about like 4,000 hours of gameplay, and about like, I guess 5 years worth of like real time. And man, sometimes you just gotta make something that, you know, that looks pretty. I want to get better at making things pretty, basically. Like, you know, and a lot of people might be saying, well, finally, you should have done that to begin with. You idiot. Well, hurtful but true, I get it. So yeah, that's, we've got our video screens in there, and yeah, like, I can totally flip that around, so it's actually the right way around, hide that camera, because stealth, and yeah, that's basically, the basics of the stealth tank, done. It's not particularly fast, because the power supply isn't particularly big. I think it's actually kind of close to the size it would be, like, in the game, actually. But yeah, it's like... Yeah. Like, I am very pleased with this. It's definitely not a particularly meta vehicle at all. Like, you know, just something armed with, like, just a small caliber heat gun will destroy this immediately. But again, stealth tank. It's also kind of cheap, despite being made of alloy and stuff like that. Being armed with missiles and stuff like, you know, like... Maybe I should get back into using missiles again, because missiles are just easy and fun. Problem is that against, like, properly defended meta designs, missiles aren't particularly useful, so it's why, like, you try and use missiles against anything with good CWIS, or against anything with a lot of missile interceptors, it's not going to work very well, it's not going to be worth the effort. And honestly, I fully understand people who play From the Depths, and, you know, they basically use APS and lasers, and then that's all they ever really need to use. Or particle cannons. If you get the hang of particle cannons, then the game probably doesn't feel as hard as it does for people like me, who are kind of silly, and, like, keep trying to, you know, make cram cannons do work. I kind of regret the cram-only Nita playthrough, which I have since discontinued. That would probably be more fun in one of the faction-specific campaigns, like particularly the Onyx Watch campaign. I should do that. I should do, like, the cram-only Nita thing, but, like, with Onyx Watch stuff. And I'll just friggin' make, I don't know, there'll be a theme, and yeah, that'll do. I should do that. That'll be fun. The Onyx Watch campaign is fun. It's, I don't know. Although I do need to do a custom campaign again. at some point. I'm not sure when I'll do that, because I do need to get my building a whole bunch of new craft mojo back. Maybe I could do a custom campaign and just build nothing but aircraft. That could be fun. And that's also, like, kind of sensible, really, because aircraft is good. I do like how this shape... I guess the front, those front... What do you call it? I guess, like, front legs, so to speak, where the tracks are sitting on. Those could be shaped differently. I'm not sure about those square... those long square corners. But I think it's okay-ish. And of course, it's stealthy, so it has to be black, even though black isn't actually that stealthy a color, as it turns out, just so everyone's aware. If you properly want to, like, hide, like even in the dark, especially in the dark, it's like dark greens and dark reds tend to be the best option. So yeah, and like, oh, this is such a poorly armored turret. I cry, or at least I would cry. And it's amazing, actually, just like you... slap some paint on something and suddenly it has personality. Like, it was all grey and boring to start with, and now it looks C&C. It went from not C&C to C&C immediately, and this is just me looking, by the way, at reference and just thinking to myself, how do we do more? How do we do better? And yes, so these little pontoons are a different color, and it's just mucking around with that color just to make sure that it is what we want. And yes, oh yes, oh yes. And just gonna paint that, because apparently that's a thing, and that's basically it, though, although maybe not. Maybe I look at reference again. And yeah, so here we got a stealth tank. This went much smoother and much more easily than I actually thought it would. And the rest of the video is basically me seeing how well it does against a King Cobra, and to my surprise it actually does kind of well. Because this thing's made of alloy and doesn't actually have any, like, wireless connections on it, it's kind of hard to see. Like, you know, the wireless snoopers, never underestimate wireless snoopers, but they actually... really do make a big difference for stuff. And whatever the King Cobra is using to make missiles inaccurate, I think it's got, what is it? It might have chaff. I should stick a chaff launcher on this. Not launcher, what's the word I'm looking for? Chaff emitter. You can see we're watching this, times 2 speed, looks kind of funky. And this is the problem kind of with fighting almost blind. Which, incidentally, is a major problem for doing anything stealthy these days in terms of modern combat. Is like, alright, so you want to see far, that means things like radars, cameras, and with cameras, immediately, you have to poke your head out of the bushes, figuratively speaking, or literally speaking sometimes, in order to see that, which means you can be seen. But with stuff like radar and sonar, you are emitting a signal. You are emitting a radio signal, and a sonar signal, respectively. So, in order for you to detect stuff, you need to make yourself detectable, which is kind of a problem with playing Hide and Go Seek the Lethal Edition. And yeah, that's basically the problem I've got with this craft. I could work on this more. I think I might. And that's basically it for this Let's Build. We're successful little build. Command & Conquer 3, blast from the past, blast from a long time ago. There's people born in 2007 who are watching this, and, you know, they're upright and talking, and they're being, well, if they're not productive members of society, they're well on their way to being productive members of society. And if you're not, and are not going there, don't feel bad about it. Like, society will be fine. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you want to see more videos like this, support me on Patreon or YouTube membership if you like. It really helps, and there's fun perks in it for you. Thank you to all my current supporters. Do be sure to check out my non-From the Depths stuff. It's quite fun. And I will see you next time in From the Depths. Farewell.